Hello. I feel like a little bit of a duck out of water because all the other speakers are very sophisticated and talented and experts in all of this, and I'm anything but. I'll tell you what I am not. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a scientist. I don't know anything other than what I've learned in my own journey. And it's quite an interesting journey, and an adventure, I would say. But I'll tell you what I am. I grew up on a ranch in western Oklahoma, the baby of 6 kids, and I love to tell people that I have actual physical proof that I was an accident. Because I'm the baby of 6, my mom and dad saved and saved and saved until they had a very expensive family portrait done with 5 kids in it and a picture of me in a school days picture of me in the corner of the frame. So I only mention that because everything I do seems in my life is kind of by accident. And my journey in cancer is really an accidental one. And the only thing I'm qualified to do is to tell my story in maybe a unique way. In August of 2016, I had my Swiss green card, I had my apartment in Zurich, and my clothes were already there, and I was 12 hours away from flying to live in Switzerland for 3 years on a partnership position at a private equity firm there. And literally 12 hours before flying, I found out I had a tumor the size of my fist in my left lower lobe, and really no symptoms. It's crazy. And so I had to call and cancel my partnership position in Switzerland and try to stay home and stay vertical and on the right side of the grass. And so I started a journey in September of 2016 of traditional chemotherapy and radiation and immunotherapy and brain radiation. And all of that was quite traumatic. I'm not telling you people anything, you've all been through it. And in December of 2016, they told me the good news was the big monster in my lower left lung was gone, but the bad news was, and this is after immunotherapy, by the way, the bad news was that it had widely metastasized from head to toe. It was in my neck, it was in my stomach, it was in my liver, it was in my pancreas, it was in my bones. And small cell lung cancer being second deadliest to pancreatic cancer, doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out that the life expectancy at that point is below 1%, and the median life expectancy is about 3 months. And so I was sent home from MD Anderson really to hire hospice. The next day, I got the craziest phone call of my life from a large animal veterinarian in western Oklahoma. And he told me this lady about a lady at Merck Animal Health doing cancer research in mice, and she, unfortunately, her entire mouse population, that she'd injected all different kinds of cancers in all different kinds of body parts, had come down, the entire mouse population had come down with intestinal parasites. Well, most people don't know that there is one drug that's used all the way from guppy-sized fish and tiny birds all the way to elephants and everything in between in the animal kingdom, and that's fenbendazole. And so she started giving her mice fenbendazole, and about a few weeks later, she noticed that she saved her mice population from the intestinal parasites, but she'd also accidentally cured their cancer. Lo and behold, the same lady got diagnosed with 4-stage glioblastoma, and it was wrapped around her brainstem, and there was nothing they could do for her. And she decided, what the heck? 12 weeks later, her glioblastoma was gone. So I heard this story, and I heard it from somebody I trusted. He was a very good veterinarian. And so I decided, what the heck? in January of 2017. And it's really interesting. I was seeing the doctor yesterday on the tocotrienol E, and seeing the people on curcumin, and seeing what's happening with CBD. I personally decided to add curcumin and tocotrienol vitamin E and broad spectrum CBD to the fenbendazole. And I went on a period of unknown. I went all of January, all of February, all of March, all of April. I was supposed to be dead by then, but I felt great. And when I went in for my PET scan the first week of May 2017, 3.5 months later, NED. And so to go from widely metastasized small cell lung cancer, which is much deadlier and aggressive than non-small cell, to NED in 3.5 months, I raised a few eyebrows. I was at the tail end of the clinical trial on Keytruda, and I sat down with the Keytruda scientist, and I asked him a lot of very pointed questions. And you know, this whole thing about, you listen to these TV advertisements, and the list of side effects just almost becomes comical. I want there to be a drug someday where the side effects are positive, like it increases IQ and creativity and makes you sexy. Maybe that'll happen someday. But Keytruda is a pretty successful drug with certain cancers, and particularly non-small cell lung cancer. But with small cell, I can tell you firsthand, and I've actually read the actual raw data, I'm the sole outlier on the Keytruda trial. They should have excluded me because I fessed up on what I was taking. But they didn't, and I think they've now got approval for it. But what's disgusting to me is, I shouldn't say disgusting. What is upsetting is it was an objective response trial. And so you say, well, what does that mean? Well, the objective in that trial was to buy an extra 1.5 to 2 years of life expectancy. So, and then only 33% of the people met that objective. So that meant by instantly 2/3 died, and the other 1/3 bought themselves 1.5 to 2 years. And that's considered success at a cost of 6 figures. I can tell you that a lot of people have looked at my story and said, well, how do we know Joe wasn't saved by the combination of Keytruda and fenbendazole? And I'd say, well, obviously I can't prove that's not true, but seeing as I'm the only sole data outlier on the trial, I think there's evidence. And I will tell you that my doctors at MD Anderson, privately behind closed doors, will say the Keytruda didn't save you. And privately behind closed doors, they admit that there's something here. So this story kind of went first viral by word of mouth, and over the year from June of 17 to June of 18, I started getting 30, 40, 50 phone calls a day, and I was having to start from ground zero telling this story over and over and over again. And I got really frustrated with that because I have a real job. At least I think I do. And so I basically decided, naively, that if I wrote a blog to tell the story, that then people could go read the blog and they wouldn't call me. Oh, shit. And I'm not a social media expert. I am a businessman. But I'm fascinated by what something causes some things to go viral and other things not. I think when you combine a cancer cure with a dog medicine, it goes viral for some reason, I don't know. So I put the blog up in June of 18, and then it got translated into Chinese at the end of 18. And today, the English version is at about 1.5 million people, and the Chinese version is at 3.5 million people. So there's 5 million people have read this story, which is just beyond my imagination. And I think more importantly, it is all of a sudden thousands started trying it. Not just hundreds, but thousands. I had a call from the editor-in-chief of the Beijing newspaper just 3 months ago, and he told me, it was really kind of funny, he told me, in perfect Queen's English, he told me that I was a rock star in China. And he said the Chinese government estimates that between 30 and 40,000 people are trying this. And so my brain went in another direction and said, can I get the Chinese government to audit these 30 to 40,000 cases so we can find out data? Because we don't know how this works or why it works really. And so what I have learned is quite interesting. With 1 million hits on the English-speaking blog in all 96 countries, including Vatican City, I joke and tell people, damn it, St. Joe's already taken. So all of a sudden, success stories started rolling in. And then we started a Facebook page for the discussion, which I could write another book about, just because in order to keep all the crazies out, it takes a full-time effort to moderate a Facebook page. And I am very lucky. I've got 5 full-time moderators in Australia, UK, and the United States. And they're there 24/7, weeding out the crazies. Multi-level marketing, people with an agenda, weird, crazy people. And it really takes that effort to keep that up, keep it kind of on the straight. But there's a section of that page that's called #PositiveProgress. And it's quite inspiring to read, because now it's up to 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 success stories a week coming through. And then I get people that say, well, this can't be true. Joe, we know it's not a cure-all. It's not a cure-all. I'm not saying that. I don't even know what it is. I know there's something here, because success stories keep coming in every week by the dozens. So then I decided, well, what I really need is, because I'm up to, right now, 200, just so you know, 200 that I know of. I know there's more out there, 200 success stories. And back to this issue of co-effect, about 75% of all of these cases, people are taking this in conjunction with, parallel to, and simultaneous with other standard of care treatments. And so the question then becomes, well, was it the fenbendazole, or was it the standard of care treatment, or was it a combination of both that did the trick? And that's a fair question. But we have 50 cases, and these are coming in more and more every day. We have 50 cases, all different kinds of cancers, where they were at 4th stage, really nothing we can do. And we know that the only thing they were taking was this protocol. And now they've had success. So all that really tells me is there really is something here. We just don't know what it is yet. So I'm pretty lucky that I have gotten the chance to become friends with a man who is one of our latest and newest billionaires in our state, who was born and raised on the really poor side of India. He's seen poverty up close and personal. And he has decided he wants stuff to be available to the masses, cheap. And so, step one, he is funding a project at the Oklahoma Medical Research Foundation, which, by the way, is not a small outfit. There's 450 PhDs in one building. And they are going to audit all of these cases. Literally get the HIPAA files, legal documents signed, get the medical releases, interview the doctors, study the cases intently. And they're going to end up writing, I think, a fairly comprehensive white paper on there's something here. Okay? I think the entire category of anthelmintics is worthy of further research and study. Jane's, you're going to hear from Jane McClellan tomorrow, and she's the real rock star here, not me. And she's kind of the mother of repurposing drugs for cancer and a cocktail of drugs. And I really honestly believe that is the future. It's not just the existing cocktail that she's using, but I think that will get expanded over time and new learning. And there's a husband and wife team that I think are really, really amazing. He was the chief scientist and the dean of Harvard Medical School, and his wife, and they're from India as well. And his wife's passion is identifying repurposed drugs for cancer. And they tried to bring that program inside of Harvard, and Harvard wouldn't let it happen. So he said, screw you, and he moved to Emory University in Atlanta, who said yes. And now the program is inside Emory University, and they've uncovered 215 candidates. Now, they're not like Jane's actually putting into practice yet. These are future candidates. And I'm 100% convinced. By the way, in my background, I used to be a venture capitalist with a major venture capital firm on Wall Street doing drug development. So I'm not a neophyte at clinical trials and development, although I hadn't done it in a decade. So, excuse me. I think they are worthy of funding to find some other additional candidates out there for repurposing drugs. Why repurposing? All of these drugs are decades removed from patent, and nobody's going to go spend the money to do a clinical trial, very expensive process, only to have generic competition the next day. It's just not going to happen. One of Jane's drugs is metformin. I went and bought it the other day at a pharmacy, got a prescription for it, and bought it at a pharmacy, and the total cost was $2.95. It's 30 years removed from patent. It's cheap, right? So I believe the future really is possibly to find other. I really believe in what I've heard the last few days about all these other alternatives and more holistic stuff. I believe in that too. But in the world of compounds and molecules, I think there are already pre-approved stuff that will happen here. So I have learned a few things here. First thing I've learned is there's a lot of stupid people out there. And they seem to find my blog. I get 150 emails a day of somebody who goes to the blog to email me to ask me where the blog is. I'm not exaggerating. So, and then I have another 100 a day that email me and want to know what the regimen is, what the protocol is, which means they're too lazy. And they're emailing me from the blog. And that means they're too lazy to read the blog. They just go to the blog and then hit contact and email me and ask instead. And I've learned that Google turns somebody with an IQ of one more than a carrot into a medical expert. And I've kind of redefined what a Google scientist is. A bachelor's in Google science is somebody that knows how to get onto Google. A master's is somebody that actually knows how to find an article that proves what they already believe. And then a PhD in Google science is somebody who actually knows how to go to page 2 of the results. And I'm being a little bit funny and facetious, but it's true. I mean, I literally get emails and people all the time who don't know anything. And they've somehow gone out and found a research. And I'll promise you, if you want to prove anything using Google, you can. Good, middle, bad. I can find research that says everything that has been presented here today is bad. I can find research that says everything here is good. I can find research that says it's great. I can find research that says, it's in the middle. If you want to prove something, you can find something. If you just go down that rabbit hole into an all-night pull of researching and Googling. It's healthy that we can Google. It's also unhealthy for some people who just don't have the right personality to understand what they're reading and can't even understand the research reports that they do Google. And that's a little bit unfortunate. I don't have much else to report other than I think this is heading in the right direction. I think we are, with 5 million hits, the cat's too far out of the bag for Big Pharma to shut it down. And I think there's something happening here. I don't know, the best research I've been able to find is by 3 Indian scientists who have proven, I think scientifically, why it works. And that research even kind of supersedes other research that says it wouldn't work and other research that says there's problems with it. And lo and behold, I found out that those same 3 scientists, who are very well known, were doing research on this exact same drug at MD Anderson 15 years ago. We have now had people reach out to us saying, some of this will just blow your mind. Medical doctors in Vietnam were giving this drug for cancer in the 60s. We know that anthelmintics have been prescribed all over the world for cancer. But for some reason, it takes somebody like Jane to repurpose mebendazole, the sister drug to fenbendazole, in order to get some traction or some legs to it. So I believe my only purpose in life maybe was to just take this step from my crazy story. I mean, I started by ordering this stuff off of 1-800-PetMeds.com, and I was such a good customer, I got a dog bone with each order. So, and from that to now, I can tell you that on fenbendazole, and Jane will tell you tomorrow about mebendazole, but right today, there is a major university doing fenbendazole research on the 2 hardest to kill ovarian cancers, and they've got a grant to do it. There's research at Rutgers. There's research, and because of me, MD Anderson has stood up full-time research. So there is movement and there's activity, but we really still don't know everything we need to know. And I think between this and what they're doing at Emory University and what Jane's doing, I think there is now, this is just the beginning. It's not the end. Any questions?
Go to the microphone for questions, please. We're recording.
My name is Jeff Dash. I have a question for you, Joe. I'm pleased to meet you. I'm a member of your Facebook group.
Mm-hmm.
My son has lymphoma. For the last 4 years, he's in remission, thankfully. And I was very intrigued by your story when I first came across it a few months ago. Looking at the Facebook group, you do have some success stories that are very inspiring, as you mentioned, and you also have
Failures.
Failures.
Deaths.
Yes. You also have some people who aren't doing as well as others.
Yeah.
I do not use the word failure. And the major article, the research study I think you're referring to is Dr. Dogra from 2018, mm-hmm. D-O-G-R-A. He studied fenbendazole and found that there was accumulation of p53 protein in the mitochondria, which caused programmed cell death. As one of the major mechanisms, of course, it's a microtubule inhibitor, also similar to the other drugs.
On the p53, it's interesting. I just found out 2 weeks ago that MD Anderson did a completely separate research on curcumin and bioavailable curcumin and found out that curcumin is materially increasing the expression of P53. And now we know from the Indian scientists that fenbendazole does, and now we know that curcumin does, and who knows what else. So I put those two together like everything I do, by accident, and then found out later after the fact that both are expressing P53. And the Indian scientists found out that it's, you know, a microtubule interrupter, which is interesting, but it also interrupts metabolism of energy. So there is ample evidence that there's something here. I do agree and believe that there needs to be more research because it's not a panacea. It's not going to be a cure-all for everybody. But I'd say this. It's interesting to me. I get people all the time ask that question. Joe, I looked at your Facebook page, and you're allowing people to say negative things, and you're allowing people to talk about where it doesn't work and it's not successful. And my answer is, have you ever seen any program targeted at cancer that doesn't have unsuccessful cases? Why pick on me? I mean, literally, I have unsuccessful cases. Every program here has unsuccessful cases. It's cancer. It kills people.
Well, the point I was trying to get to, which I just want to finish making, and then I'll let somebody else ask a question, is the P53 is functional in about half of the cancer patients, but in the other half it's mutated, it's dysfunctional. So
yes.
That's a this is just
so
an idea.
I asked Dr. Moodley in India that question. I said, if somebody has mutated P53, what is this potentially doing? He says, I think it's expressing new, healthy, wild-type P53 that replaces the mutated P53 that's not working for you. That's what he told me.
Okay, fine.
I'm not a scientist.
Well, the idea that I was going to present was that the people with the non-functioning P53 would not respond as well to the fenbendazole, whereas the functioning P53,
Maybe.
they can produce the protein.
I don't
But,
know.
Again, that's the subject for further
But I will
research.
so in the 50 cases of, the only thing they were taking was the fenbendazole regimen. There is 4-stage pancreatic, there's colorectal, there's triple-negative breast cancer, there's brain cancer, there's all different subtypes of cancer and all different stages. All I know is, now that with thousands of people taking it, name me another human trial. There's lots of stuff you can find on it out there on Petri dishes and rats. But we've got now 200 success stories with real human beings. And so that's all I know.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Yes.
Joe, thank you for your talk. I'm actually an M&A guy, so I might have sold some companies to one of your private equity
Yeah, you
groups, but that's a
probably
side
did.
story.
Hopefully you bailed me out of one of my bad ones.
Yeah, that one, I won't talk about that one right now. But thank you for your insight. When you bring stories like this to the people here, it's wonderful because, as you know, in conventional medicine, allopathic medicine, you got chemo, radiation, and surgery, and there's a lot of immunotherapeutic things going on right now. But when you read the small print on those commercials on TV, if you stop the TV, it'll get you 2.5 more months or 3.5 more months. I'm thinking that's not
A chance to
breakthrough.
live longer.
At what cost? But the fact that, and in what they call alternative medicine or non-allopathic, there's not one voice that speaks because there's all kinds of things out
Right.
there, obviously. But this just proves the point that there is so much that we don't know. There are therapeutic paths, there are treatments out there that we are not aware of, that are not made public, that can bring about a profound benefit to so many people.
Let me say this about that, and then I want to hear what Jane's getting ready to ask me, because I probably can't answer it. We could have a whole conference about the conspiracy theory behind the separation of allopathic medicine and I've got 10 minutes, and homeopathic medicine. And I think somebody ought to do a real documentary about it, because it all happened in the 20s when it just separated and homeopathy just got literally outlawed. by Big Pharma. And I never was a conspiracy theorist in my life until I lived this journey, and now I am.
Yeah, yeah. One other quick thing. You commented about curcumin. I happen to be a big fan of curcumin. And a lot of things relate to dosage. They relate to how much you have in your system. It relates to bioavailability of all kinds of things.
Right.
But just for everyone in this room, keep in mind there are a variety of treatment, therapies, combinations of things that can be profoundly beneficial. I personally met hundreds of people, literally hundreds, who were told, time to get your affairs in order, and they're here 10 to 25 years later.
Yeah, right. Jane?
Joe, hi. So great to see you in person. Yay. It's not going to be a complicated question, I promise. I just wanted to know, because I missed the first bit, did you take chemo at any point?
So, I believe, people ask me all the time, if you had to do over again, would you just do this regimen and skip the traditional standard of care? And the answer is no, because I don't know. The big monster, the one the size of my fist, I believe was successfully killed by chemo and radiation. But it was after that, and after I was halfway through the immunotherapy trial, that the wide metastasis happened. So I believe this helped me with the wide mets. I believe that the traditional chemo, which was September, October, November of 16, is what...
So 3 months.
Yeah.
You had 3 months of chemo. Do you
Well-
remember what that was?
Yeah, it was cisplatin, I forget, the standard really bad shit. That's a
Had it
technical
too.
term.
Yeah.
Yeah, 3 months of chemo, and then I did brain radiation as well. So the closest I came to death was they fried my esophagus with the radiation, and nothing would go down.
Yeah.
So I went 8 weeks. Mahatma Gandhi's record was 3 weeks, hunger strike. I went 8 weeks with 0 nutrients in my body, 0. And that's not intermittent fasting. And I went from 200 pounds down to 100 pounds. I'm 5'10", and weighed 100 pounds. And I went in twice a week to hydrate with IV fluids, but I had 0 nutrients for 8 weeks. That came a lot closer to killing me than the cancer did, I believe. So.
Okay. No, I just needed a bigger picture, and I think it's great you've expanded on that. Thank you.
Yeah. No, I did do chemo, but I don't think it... in fact, the metastasis happened after the chemo.
Yeah. And after the starving?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
So, okay. I just need to
Yeah.
understand the full picture. Thank you.
Okay.
All right. I will talk about fenbendazole a little bit tomorrow in my talk as well. So,
Okay, great.
Yeah.
She's the real one you ought to listen to, not me. Thank you, everybody. Any other questions? Yeah.
One more quick question. I'm a member of your Facebook page, and I'm proud to say that I am, and thank you for everything that you do. I wanted to know if from the success stories that you've read, do you feel that it's better to do the 3 days on, 4 days off protocol, or to continuously take it? So someone could take it for 7 days. I've
Yeah,
read
yeah.
of people
Okay,
taking
so
it for 4 months at a time.
I updated the blog for that very reason. So this gets into how you can find anything you want to find on research on Google. So the reason the 3 days a week was recommended to me initially by the veterinarian was that there's reports out there that this could really damage your liver. And then I started doing more research, and I found out some people are just crazy, and they just started taking double and triple the dose and going from 3 days a week to 7 days a week and not having any side effects. So I went down and did a rabbit hole of more research and found out that there hasn't been toxicity trials on this, and 500 milligrams a day long term is safe. So I updated the blog and said, look, if you want to increase your dosages and keep a really close eye on it, knock yourself out. There's not that much downside risk here other than you got to watch your liver enzymes if you increase your dosages.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, my name is Widget Richardson. I'm from Atlanta, and I've been doing your protocol since March 25th.
Well, great.
And as you know, I was on it.
March
I I was number 500, and now they're 15,000. Okay, we've got a problem, and the Fenbid that you recommend is that Panacure, and they have been out of stock for 3 months.
Yeah, so I have.
So can you recommend like Safeguard or?
Yeah, well, Safeguard is the
didn't-
exact same product, exact same company, exact same manufacturing plant, just a different color on the outside of the box. That's all the only difference. So
Okay.
I have a mole inside of Merck told me that I've increased the global unit volume of fenbendazole by 20x.
Yeah, yeah.
And it is, you can't get it in the United States.
Yeah.
It's sold out.
Yeah, and if you do this, you need to stock
But you
up
can,
like I did.
you can find the Safeguard brand.
One more thing. I always have to run out for stupid reasons, so I missed a lot of your talk, and I apologize. But did you mention any adverse effects or harms from the drug? Because there's no pharma without. So.
Yeah, now, so far, the only thing I've been reported to is about 5 to 10% of people report mild diarrhea as a side effect.
Okay.
So when you get into this thing, why is it not working for some people? I think there's more science that needs to be learned behind that.
Right. Many paths to wellness, and some things work
Yeah.
some of the time. For diarrhea, I'd like to just mention activated charcoal, clove tea, 2 things in the natural world that really, really help.
Thank you.
Joe, wait. You forgot to mention the Stanford University research where they're thinking of repurposing fenbendazole to
Yeah,
a human drug.
But they're a little bit misguided. I mean, this lady's, there's one scientist, MD, practitioner, and PhD scientist at Stanford who now has 4 successful patients just herself. That's one oncologist at one university in California. She's so hyped up on this, she wants to go kind of full-time into it. The problem with fenbendazole is it's not human approved, and nobody's going to go spend the money to do a clinical trial. So you just got to do it illegally by buying it from 1-800-PetMeds.com, and you'll get a dog bone with each order. Thank you.